I personally believe that the opposite of depression is not happiness. The opposite of depression is expression. And that's exactly why I named my project To Express Abhivyakti, because I think when we store our emotions, trauma, bottle it up, and keep it in ourselves for really long, we are suppressing all emotions. We are creating space for depression to live with us.
Why it's still hard to talk openly about mental health. Whenever in India, Australia, or anywhere else in the world. Today on Bipolar Talk, we're exploring activism, education, and live experience as powerful to break stigma. And so we're really happy to welcome Ananya. And we're going to basically talk about what you do as a mental health educator, as a psychology student, and a social activist. So yeah, just want to let you present yourself. And quickly about me, I'm Clément, the founder of Hope Stage, and we help people with bipolarity. So let's go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Clément, at this beautiful platform, Hope Stage. I am so grateful and excited. So, hi everyone. I am Ananya Banerjee. I come from India. At the moment, I'm studying in Australia, Canberra, at the Australian National University. I'm studying psychology. And my journey and passion from mental health began when I stepped into the field of psychology as a grade 11 student. I remember I had so many questions around human behavior, human mind, and everything. So, just out of curiosity, I wanted to learn about psychology and mental health, but I did not restrict myself to textbooks. I went on taking hands-on experience with different psychologists and psychiatrists. I started interning, taking in a lot of courses, trainings, just to equip myself with a variety of soft skills and to understand what this field looks like. Because I am an activist, I have been a child activist, I've been working around gender rights, education. I started on with this particular project called Abhivyakti, which means to express. And this started when we were under lockdown. COVID-19 happened and we all were restricted in our homes. So I wanted to do something at least online. So I brought in together the experts from the field of mental health and different people. So we started having conversations, and it was for the first time, at least in my city or in my area, where mental health was a public discussion. We were openly talking about it. I have lots of stories to share, and I'm sure we'll unpack most of those. But basically, I don't like to restrict myself to labels, but I think that that is what it is. So I am a mental health educator currently working in Canberra with organization called MEACT and MSCC. I am director of this youth organization back in India where I am doing my mental health advocacy work. And then definitely I am a psychology student where I keep pushing myself, interning and taking on courses, and because I aspire to be a mental health social worker and keep impacting the community. So yeah. And finally, I am also a poet, and I try to bring in conversations about mental health through my poetry. So I write about emotions and different aspects of human behavior, different aspects of life through my poetry to just destigmatize it.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, so to talk about also who I am a little bit, like, so I was diagnosed as bipolar when I was like 29, and I did my first depression when I was 19.
Mhm.
And I fully understand what you're saying about stigma because I discovered that I had some family who was bipolar, but really late when I was actually 29, and they were ashamed of talking about it. And it make it much difficult for me to get diagnosed and to get my way into stability. So I feel it's a really important thing to be able to share about it and to go, like, to not be ashamed of who we are. And if you're listening, like, I know it's tough, but we are just different. And of course, it's a disorder. It's not easy, but we can manage it and we can live through it and have a happy life. So I wanted to share that, and I wanted also to understand a bit more about your journey, because everybody has their journey in mental health, and I think it's really important to share it to give people hope, you know.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful, Clément, you shared your experience, and you have been talking about your lived experience, and I'm sure it's giving a lot of other people that strength who are maybe who are not even comfortable getting diagnosis right now and struggling with their mental health. So it's incredible that you're openly talking about it. Absolutely, yes, I do have a lived experience of depression, and I did get diagnosed when I was 18, not long back. So when I moved from India to Australia as an international student, it was definitely life was like a roller coaster, emotionally, mentally, physically. As an 18-year-old, I was trying to figure out a lot of things, understand my identity, with what kind of people I fit in. There was few unhealed things from my childhood, a lot of things. And when I was all by myself, here we don't have the system of sharing hostel rooms. It's just you by yourself. And after you do all the fancy stuff, you slay at work, you do all those extracurricular activities, and you are involved in all kind of activities and opportunities. But at the end of the day, it's you, and it's you coming back to your silence and coming back to yourself. And that's when I started to notice a lot of different kind of behaviors and emotions I was experiencing. And I think I'm very lucky in that sense, because as a psychology student, I could understand things at an early stage instead of me waiting for it to get really worse. But even then, as a mental health advocate, as a psychology student, I did have self judgment and self stigma. I For once I started to figure out if I could manage and cope with my own self, and I could regulate my own emotions. But then I knew that I wanted to seek help, and I'm glad that I had that awareness and knowledge. And that's exactly my advocacy work revolves around, that people must have awareness and knowledge about basic psychoeducation, because at any time you are in that situation, there is no one who can help you more than the way you can help yourself by just taking that step, whether it's seeking social support, whether it's taking therapy, anything. It is us who has to take that stand and step. So yeah, I did have a bit of a tough journey where it also went down the abyss, a mix of anxiety, depression, panic attacks, suicidal ideation. And I acknowledge all of that because I have been through that difficult journey. And it's also it's fulfilling to see how, after accepting that part of me, after accepting all of those emotions, yes, I do revisit those times, because you don't heal completely, or you don't recover 100%. It's not possible, and life again brings different challenges to you. But overall, I think it's very fulfilling to see my recovery journey or my healing journey, because of all the support I have had, all the accessibility resources I've had. So yes, I do acknowledge that I have lived that experience, but also I'm grateful because it taught me a lot.
I feel you're right. Like, it's like sharing it and being responsible for what we live. It's tough, but I feel like I believe the same as you. Nobody can help yourself more than you. And of course, having great psychiatrists and good treatment and everything is great, but at the end of the day, you are the master of your life, and nobody can do it without yourself. And I feel it's changing a little bit, and I feel the new generation like you is doing great, because you're taking this step forward, saying that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to become an expert of your mental health, because it's one of the things that is probably the most important in life. But you talk about one word which I found is important to explain, is psychoeducation. Try to make it simple, because at the end of the day, like, we all hear this a difficult conversation that when you don't understand everything. And so what is it for you, and how did it help you?
Amazing. I try my best to actually get rid of the jargons and that lingo, but I think because I'm so much surrounded by mental health people all the time, sorry, but I'm glad you pointed it out. So psychoeducation, basically, if you just break down those words, it's psycho, which is more about around psychology, which is basic understanding of how we function as humans, what our emotions. So as basic as, because as a mental health educator, when I do my sessions with grade 3 students, so we tell them about emotions are not good or bad. They're comfortable or uncomfortable. this is part of psychoeducation, right? So a lot of things, the intensity of emotions, what do I need when I am not feeling fine? What is self-care for me? What does stress in my body looks like? Do I have that observation? Do I have that awareness? Do I even know of the concept? It begins with that understanding and knowledge. Like, I was able to express myself and take that help after I had that particular vocabulary. Like, I didn't even know how I should talk about my emotions. I didn't know what that experience looked like because that was for the first time I was going through all of that. So I think psychoeducation in itself is a very powerful tool. It empowers us in a way that we are able to talk about it. We're able to also, it makes us understand that we are not the only ones suffering through it. That tells us, oh, this word has been invented and discovered and been used by other people. It means there are other people who have been through that experience, and now I am using that word for my own experience. So I think it just makes the process of seeking help easier and better. And also, sorry, moving a little back, because I did mention, and I make a point whenever I mention about my suicidal ideation from 3 years back, I also always want to make a point of how I got, I did not take that step, rather, I chose life. And that is majorly because of two reasons. One is my higher purpose. I don't know if that might sound like it's very typical podcasting or whatever, but that's me being very true and honest. As someone who stepped into spirituality, I think my higher purpose reminded me that I am born for something bigger. I have to create more awareness and consciousness in my own self. I have to strive for so much more. Also, as an ambitious person, I would continuously visualize myself as a grown up adult, around 30-year-old Ananya, who is doing things that she wanted to do. And that was pushing me. I was like, that is what I want to do in life. How am I just sitting back and questioning my existence at this point? So I think having those dreams and being mad about those dreams drove me. And secondly, I think my social support. A lot of times when I was not believing in myself, my abilities, I started hating little things about my own self and my routine and my life. It's like depression is like that fog in front of your eyes. Things are same more often than not, but it's just a fog that just makes you not able to acknowledge or see that. So I think the people around me who held my hand in those moments, my friends, my family, I think I'm just so grateful to them. And there's a lot of importance in social supports.
Yeah, I feel it's true that it's really important to understand. So first of all, for psychoeducation, so we do courses about bipolarity, which is psychoeducation. So if you want to know more about it, you can look into the description. And about depression, to come back to that, because I feel it's something that we hear a lot, but you see the difference between someone who had a depression episode and was kind of depressed for a few days. And it's really important, I feel, to explain the difference, because so many times in my life, when I went through depression, people were telling me, oh, it's okay, just go for a run, it's going to be okay. And they didn't understand that, as you say, you have a fog and your brain is not working properly. So you cannot act properly and do stuff in a logical way. So how did it feel for yourself, and how do you explain what was your depression? Because in terms of awareness is one of the big points, I think.
Absolutely. And before I share my own experience, even psychology says that if you do brain imaging and scanning, brain of someone who is living with depression for years is different from the brain image of other people who are not living with depression. And that is the case for a lot of other mental illnesses, psychological illnesses, because brain is part of our body. And mental illness is also something that is affecting our brain and body. So, first of all, for us to actually even start talking about mental health as a normal topic, we have to begin with that it is part of our body, and we don't have to alienate and isolate the topic. Or mental health is not about our physical body. It is. We don't realize how mental illness actually affects your physical health so much. So my experience was definitely, I've gone through what you said, that when I reached out to certain people, and it's actually unfortunate because It takes a lot of courage for you to actually open up in front of someone, be vulnerable, and an adult in front of you, someone I just knew and was there at my university, and I confided in that elder person, and all they said was, "You're just 18-year-old. You haven't even seen and experienced life. How are you depressed and sad? What are you sad about? You should be grateful about everything." And I'm like, okay, that makes it so much better. Thank you. My depression is all gone. But I'm like, yeah, I know gratitude, but that's the thing. I'm just not able to appreciate anything, right? My experience around depression looked like struggling to get out of bed. I am someone who is like, even now you've seen, like, I'm just talking. I have lots of energy. I'm just a cheerful person. I love to be around people. I am a very social person that way. But suddenly, when depression hit me, I started withdrawing from everything, from all kind of opportunities, all kind of events. I All I wanted to was rot in my bed for hours and hours. I think I was struggling to get sleep. I would start to try to get sleep around 11 p.m., but I would get sleep at, I don't know, 3 or 4 a.m. And in the meanwhile, because you have nothing to do, and yes, I would talk to my family, but after that, I'm just scrolling, doom scrolling, because I just need to sleep. I'm listening to music, nothing is helping. And when I sleep, I don't want to get up in the morning. I want to sleep for like 12 hours. I have missed my classes. I've missed a lot of things that I scheduled, and I would live with that guilt. And because I had so many commitments, I was not able to fulfill all of those. At physical level, I did have fatigue. It's just like there is less willingness and motivation to do anything. You just don't see a point. And that's exactly why there's certain words associated with depression: helplessness, and just losing interest in things that you once used to enjoy doing. So, yeah, depression is definitely, how you said, feeling depressed is an emotion. But having depression, all of these symptoms that persist and last for over 2 weeks, make depression. It's cognitive, or it's what's happening in your brain, the cognitive part, what's happening in your body, what's happening in your behavior. Your habits have changed, your way of dealing with people and everything, those things have changed. You're more irritable and agitated. So it's so much more. It's complex. It's not just feeling sad and then you're done and dusted. Yeah, I mean, depression is complex in that way. So yeah, as much as I can recall and point out, this is what my depression looked like.
Yeah, I had many depression also, and I feel what you're saying because yeah, it's the same for me. I couldn't take a shower, I couldn't answer a text, and then you have this anxiety, and it's so tough, but the good thing is like there's way to like prevent them, and there's way to make them less intense. One of the things that helped me a lot is like building an action plan to know the triggers when maybe if it happens again, then I will know really quickly. And then I will have like sort of simple plan that I can follow. And because I know that if the depression actually hits, then my brain wouldn't function anymore. But if I do it at the beginning, whenever I find the triggers, usually it helps me not go into this depression, but just stay into the depressed phase and get out of it as soon as I can. And if in the worst case scenario I get into a depression but haven't been the thing for a long time, but then it's less intense. But so to give you a few ideas, so I can show it to you and I will put the link also, but we're building a lot of tool for us as bipolar, and if you're listening, I really advise you to do it. It takes about 3 minutes. It's really about like, what are your triggers? My triggers is usually like high anxiety and withdrawing, and usually hopelessness and low energy. And then whenever I know that it's usually because of work stress, so that's maybe the main one. And what I do is I talk about it with my girlfriend, with my peer helper, and I usually like ask for someone to help me go for a walk every day. And when I do that, it basically, I wouldn't say it fixed it, but it helped most of the things, and it helped me getting through it. Have you built one of those plans for you, or what have you done, Ananya?
Quick break. Can you let us a review on Apple Podcasts or the platform of your choice? It really helps us break the stigma around bipolarity. Let's get back to the episode.
Interesting question. Your action plan sounds very cool. So for me, yes, I think that's exactly how my therapist and therapy helped me. So number one was for me mental and intellectual acceptance of what was happening with me before I could take any action. I learned from my therapist that I had to create a space for my own emotions and for my own self to let myself be. Because every time I was getting a panic attack, every time I was getting really sad, or I felt like I was going through emotional pain, I would ask myself, why is it happening? How can I fix it? I was just not letting it be. And that's exactly how, through my reflections and my sitting with myself with all of those emotions, now I say my feelings are visitors. Happiness will come, visit me, it might stay, and it has to eventually go. I have to have that acceptance. It comes from spirituality and therapy that happiness is a visitor, sadness is a visitor, all the emotions are visitors for me. So I think for me, my action plan began with more of an intellectual mindset shift. Then yes, I did list out certain things that trigger me and I had to particularly avoid. And I did inform two, three closest people who were around me, because if I am getting support from them, I need to keep them well informed so that they're able to support me. So it's also like you're educating someone to be there for you, because they're not experts. They're just your friends who want to be there. So I think my action plan included me expressing and telling what I needed, me understanding that what my triggers were, what worked for me in particular situation. What if I am getting a panic attack at work? What would it look like? So kind of just making different strategies and imagining few situations and then keeping a toolkit ready, just having a first aid kit ready. So yes, I did discover all of those questions. But sorry, again, I have this thing, I keep moving back and forth because I think I have so much to share. But I think the best way to sum up my experience of depression is it felt like there is overcrowding of thoughts. There's too much traffic of a devil and an angel sitting inside my head. Continuous noise and overcrowding of thoughts, but also a void inside me. So it's interesting how you feel so empty and so, I don't know, isolated and lonely, and there's just an empty space in you, but there's also overcrowding in you. And then you're always figuring out what is a fact and what is a thought, and do I have to fall for my thoughts or not. So I think that is what sums up my depression journey, because I became a very emotionally sensitive person at that time. And it somehow did affect my memory. Even now, sometimes I feel that I had a better memory before depression, but it somehow did affect me. But that's okay. I know it can be worked on. But I think just that feeling of having parallel void and overcrowding is what depression felt like for me.
Yeah, and depression is like, it's really tough. But talking about it and letting people know that we've been through it, both of us, and we've been like managing it and finding way for not to happen again. And I think if you're listening, it's really about like, it's okay if you're there or if you've been there, because there's way to manage it and to share it. And our story is showing that it's possible. And I feel like talking about it is probably one of the most important things, because whenever you share it, is like, for me, it relieves a lot of stress. It's like, I feel like just talking about the fact that, oh, okay, I feel bad at the moment, I feel depressed, to someone who is listening, is already like helping me like figure out like why I'm there and what can I do. And something I wanted to ask you is like, I feel society is changing in a really good way about mental health, and I see more and more like young people like talking about it and saying what they're feeling instead of just hiding it. Why do you think it has this change, and why do you think it's getting better?
I like to see, I think even by now, everyone who's would be listening to it would have figured out how much I like to put metaphors and kind of, explain it. So I see that there is a spectrum. there are two ends to mental health spectrum. One is where there are a lot of people who have a lot of myths and stigma around mental health, a lot of shame, and more often than not, they are the elders in the society, because one, that maybe they did not have that education, second, their culture and their mindset is very different, and ours is very different. Second, or the other end of the spectrum is where, how you mentioned briefly that certain people use mental illnesses as adjectives or as normal words, like, oh, if I'm cleaning my table properly, someone calling me, oh, why are you being so OCD? It's not as basic. We are demeaning the experience of people who are living with it. Or if someone is just feeling nervous before an interview and sweating a little bit, then them calling that I am just in a state of panic and I think I'm getting a panic attack. So just like we are not able to understand the intensity of things and we casually using a lot of things, and I have social media to, like, I want to blame social media for it as well, but it's okay. So they're just like two extreme ends that somewhere we are working around mental health awareness, that we want to tell the elder generation and other people that let's just even start talking about it. If I'm going to a psychologist or a dentist, don't judge me for either. And it's not a problem. I'm not mad. Or there's not like, not every time a person goes through a heartbreak or a breakup has to go to a psychologist. They could just go to a psychologist because they are stressed. And then there's the other end that we're trying to tell that these are not words that can be used so casually. So I mean, it's not as easy to navigate this particular, mental health revolution. But I think I am so proud and grateful that people nowadays have started to talk about it. And it's becoming a public discussion, which is, I think, particularly because the number of cases are increasing. It's like I can have myths about mental health and point out at other people and judge other people until it is someone at my home who is going through depression, and I'd be like, this is what it looks like. Till now, I had been living with myths. So it's just become so, the number of cases have increased so much that now people are forced into understanding what it is. Otherwise, it'll be too late. You're not able to support yourself or anyone else if you're just living in your under the rock, thinking that, oh, mental health is just, it's all in your head and it's not real. So I think we are pushed to an edge where we have to start talking about mental health before it's too late. And yes, Gen Z or younger people are more vocal about a lot of things, not just mental health, for sure, which is actually, I know a lot of people actually try to shut them down because they're too vocal sometimes, but I think it takes a lot of courage, and I think they're defying a lot of social norms in that sense. That, like, come on, it's not always about the culture. It's not always about predetermined right or wrong. We have to challenge certain things and start talking about it, because that's how change comes. If you're conformist, you're only trying to stick to what's decided for you as right, there is no space and scope for change then.
And it's really about, like, in this situation of mental health, the great thing is, like, you're fixing two problems at the same time, because it's like sharing about it. Of course, it's important for people to know, but also is helping people, because whenever you share something about mental health, it's crazy how good it is for your brain. And I feel personally, I would say now my superpower is, like, just sharing and asking for help, and not be waiting and be like, oh, I'm a big guy, I can manage it. No, I cannot. I need to ask for help. And if you're listening, and if you're bipolar or maybe you have depression, it's like people love to help. And we tend to forget that, because they feel good when you ask for help, because they feel like, oh, they really value me, they really trust me, and it makes them happy. So ask for help. If I would say that, do you have any advice you want to share to people who are living through depression, or want to help people who live through depression?
Sure. I think I personally believe that the opposite of depression is not happiness. The opposite of depression is expression. And that's exactly why I named my project To Express Abhivyakti, because I think when we store our emotions, trauma, bottle it up, and keep it in ourselves for really long, it we are suppressing all emotions. We are creating space for depression to live with us. And that was case for me. It's not just my theory, and I'm also not an expert who can, just say anything like that. I have read certain books, I've read research papers, and I've gathered knowledge and I've lived through that. So I think that it's extremely important to express. And when we say express, it's not, therapy is exceptionally important and very helpful, but I also want to say that it might not work for everyone because there are different ways of expressing through our body movement, through art, through, like whatever interests you. I'm just expressing it. I started expressing. I say that depression made me a better poet. I just started writing in my diary as much as I could. And I realized that I had so much to say. I had so much to talk about that I'd always been just bottling up and storing. And that is even more prevalent among males because males, during parenting and when you're growing up, you're taught that you have to man up, you have to be a macho, don't cry like a girl, be strong like a man. When you associate all of these things, these become your guiding force, and you're like, now I feel that I am in depression, but I can't seek help because I'm a man. I have to be a strong man. And we think that seeking help is a symbol of weakness. So there's so much we have to unlearn and relearn during this process. But at the end of the day, it is just making it hard for men or women to express. And at the end of the day, it's so important to express. It's so liberating. I even express myself through meditation. When I would sit for meditation, one, I would not be able to because there would be so much going in my head and body. But when I would burst into tears as if I would cried all of my life. Like, it's all coming out. So it just has to come out of your body in some or the other way. And there's a beautiful book. I've not read it completely, but I've read different excerpts from it, which is Body Keeps a Score. Your body does store trauma. I did start doing yoga and I felt how I was able to express and release some kind of stress through my body. So yeah, just please make at least some effort, at least one step towards yourself to express yourself, because that is a form of self-care. Self-care doesn't always have to be luxurious and massive. It is just taking that one step for yourself and for your well-being, because you matter.
Yeah, and I do journaling a lot. I do meditation too. It's like those things are free and it helps me like crazy, and yeah, you should try too if you're listening, because it's like yoga. I have stopped since I arrived in Australia, but I have to. I think I can find a place. I'll try because yeah, personal thing. But yeah, it was awesome. I just have like one last question, which is like, if you have a magic wand, what would you love to change in mental health?
I think it would be just destigmatizing mental health once for all. As we are readily available to help people with, say, cancer, we're not making the recovery journey or healing journey 100 times tougher by adding judgments and questions to it. It's just like you are readily available and you're like, okay, let's go to this doctor, let's take this particular resource. People are ready to educate themselves because cancer is also one of those things that is, the number of cases are increasing. But for mental health, we have to go through layers of judgments, biases, preconceived notions, myths, and then come to a place where we're like, okay, maybe we can help ourselves or help anyone else. So if I had a magic wand, which I don't, so that's exactly why through my organization, through all of us, we all are in one mission. So like people like Clement and myself, and we need more people to join this movement, this journey, this revolution, that we have to just destigmatize mental health and make this world full of love and kindness and compassion.
Thanks a lot. Just to recap a little bit, like what we talk about, and I feel the most important thing that is like sharing. If you're feeling depressed, if you're having depression, ask for help. Feel free to talk about it. Feel free to talk about it with yourself, with journaling also. And you shouldn't be ashamed. It's part of life. It's a sickness, but we've been through it and we figure it out, and you can too. So feel free to get some help. Maybe do your action plan could be a great idea. And thanks a lot for joining, Ananya. And see you
I have
soon.
a small request, only if you allow, Clement. Can I end this podcast with a poem of mine which is perfectly around this topic? Okay, that's a yes, okay. So here it goes. There's noise in my head. Run, Ananya, run, it said. Else miss out on the stuff and feel left out and rough. The scream in my brain would fear lightning when I could enjoy the rain. My heart would pump speedy, forcing me to chase everything as a greedy. I did a mistake. I got trapped by thoughts vague and fake. I would often get distracted considering my thoughts to be facts. There exists an urge in me to multitask and suppress my feelings under a mask. I questioned why I feel this way when all I had to do is accept it as part of me anyway. I told my friend that I was not sad or alone despite a lovely life my head would make me moan. I have felt hollow and an abyss, asking myself, when did I become this? Developing fear of happiness, I did more, still felt less. With smile and gratitude in day, at work I would slay. But at night my heart would pour out, making me see myself with a doubt. Is this permanent? Or is sadness my new tenant? Do I run away from it or thyself to feel back myself? But how do I tell? How do I tell? Because I seek no sympathy or pity, still want to stop feeling this shitty. Walk, nature makes me feel lighter, and I keep pushing myself like a fighter. Some days I see hope falling down, and my face with a frown. But then there is a cheerful me that people see and say I am the happiest being they ever see. Parallel calmness and anxiety walk, but it's fine till I've my friend to talk. I celebrate when I get out of bed, and I've stopped caring about what people said. I still call the monster in the head a blessing, for I am evolving while things around messing. After all, I'm not the only one to feel this way. It's just that many don't say. I draw strength from people whose life is tougher and makes me rise as I suffer. I can't stop, for I want to look back and feel proud on the journey and uplift people around. I am fine. I am fine cause my therapist tells me this is life. Howsoever it is mine. Howsoever it is mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
To learn more about bipolarity, go to our website, hopestage.com, hopestage.com. See you soon.